"We're doing Christmas without you," my mom texted. I just nodded. Later, I saw the photos. 21 people matching pajamas, gifts everywhere. My kids asked, "Why weren't we there?" I smiled. "We'll celebrate differently." That night, I ended every payment I'd been covering. By morning, the group chat was exploding. "My name's Barbara. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. And this is about the Christmas my parents decided my daughters and I didn't matter." 2 weeks before Christmas, I got the text. "We're doing Christmas without you. Hope you understand, love. Mom." They wanted me to know I was being left out, and they didn't care how that would land. I stared at the screen, not even shocked, just tired. Things hadn't been right between us for a long time. I was never the daughter they wanted. They raced me to follow a certain path. Church every week, marry young, stay at home, live by the rules. I broke every one of those expectations. Got pregnant before marriage, raised 2 girls on my own, focused on work, never came back to the church after the girls were born. Over time, they stopped hiding their disapproval. They wanted a version of me that I wouldn't give them, not just in how I lived, but in how I fit into their world. I didn't sign up for their church fundraisers. I stopped bringing dishes to extended family events that I wasn't even invited to anymore. I didn't volunteer to host parties or babysit someone else's kids while they talked about how I was still figuring things out. I gave support where it actually mattered. Bills, rides, groceries, but I didn't fake affection. And that to them was betrayal. So, when that text came, it felt like the final move in a game I hadn't realized we were still playing. They didn't want to argue. They just wanted us gone. I didn't respond. Just packed a bag, loaded Ava and Lily into the car, and drove up to a little cabin near Flat Rock. It was quiet, surrounded by woods with a frozen lake out back and string lights on the porch. The girls thought it was a dream. We made cookies, built a fire, wrapped dollar store gifts for each other, and pretended we were in one of those corny holiday movies. On Christmas morning, I made the mistake of checking Instagram. There they all were. My parents, my brother and his wife, their 3 kids, my cousins, my uncle from Florida who never shows up. All of them in red and black matching pajamas, piles of gifts, a coordinated theme. They'd clearly hired a photographer. I counted 21 people. The same house we used to show up to with casseroles and presents. The same people who called me family to my face and ignored me in every group message. I showed the photos to the girls because I didn't want to lie. Lily asked why we weren't there. Ava didn't ask anything. She just looked for a moment and said it was okay. We'd celebrate differently now. I smiled, told her she was right, but inside I was burning. I didn't need their approval anymore. But my daughters deserve to be treated like family. Regardless of how my parents felt about me, they didn't choose this. And yet, they were the ones completely erased. And that was the moment I was done. That night, after the girls went to bed, I opened my laptop and pulled up every bill I'd been quietly covering. My parents' power and water gone. The car insurance I'd paid 3 times, canceled. My brother's rent, which I'd helped with twice, done. Every automatic payment, every Cash App history, every favor they'd accepted like it was their right gone. No message, no warning, just silence. By the next morning, the group chat was a circus. Dozens of unread messages, missed calls. My mom asking if something was wrong with the power. My dad saying the internet wasn't working. My brother trying to act like he didn't know what was going on, but asking if I still had that extra rent money. I didn't answer. Because if they were going to cut us out of Christmas like we didn't exist, they could live without everything else I'd been quietly carrying on my back. I didn't respond to any of the messages. I just watched them come in, one after another like dominoes tipping over, all of them shocked, confused, and completely unaware of what they'd actually done. By noon on December 2006, I had 6 missed calls from my mom, 4 from my dad, and 1 from my brother. That one made me laugh. He left a voicemail trying to sound casual like it was just another Monday. "Hey Barb. Mom said the power's out and the water isn't working. Dad saying something about the internet being shut off. I told them you usually handle that stuff. Maybe your card expired or something. Just check when you get a minute." That was the moment I realized they still didn't get it. They genuinely didn't understand that they'd gone too far. I was supposed to keep providing bills, support, silence. No matter how they treated me, they expected me to act like nothing happened, like excluding my daughters and me from the one holiday that ties families together was just a minor oversight. Later that evening, my mom finally sent a direct message. "We noticed the payments stopped. What's going on? Something's wrong. Just let us know. But it's still your responsibility to help us. We raised you." That line, "We raised you," like I was still some child they were owed something from. As if everything I'd been doing up until now wasn't out of quiet loyalty, but obligation. Like it was my job to fund their lives because I dared to grow one of my own without their approval. I didn't reply. Not because I was playing some revenge game, but because I was done handing out grace to people who only recognized its value when it stopped. That night, around 9 p.m., I got a text from Aunt Carol, my mom's older sister. She's always been the quiet one in the family, the one who doesn't take sides. But her message was short and honest. "Just saw the Christmas photos. I didn't realize you and the girls weren't there. I'm sorry. Are you okay?" I stared at it for a while. Then I told her the truth. Not everything, just the part that mattered. They'd made it clear they wanted nothing from me except my silence and my money. I told her this wasn't new, this wasn't sudden. And I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just tired. I said Ava and Lily had seen those photos too. That they'd asked questions I couldn't answer. She called me an hour later. I almost didn't pick up, but I'm glad I did. She didn't try to guilt me or talk me into going back. He just listened. Then she said something I didn't expect. "They think you've walked away because of the photos, but this started long before that. I see that now. And honestly, I don't blame you, but I still think it can be fixed if you want it to be." I told her I didn't, because what they broke wasn't something that could be put back together with a forced apology or a dinner invitation. This wasn't just about Christmas. This was about years of pushing me to the side unless they needed something from me. She said she understood, but she was going to talk to them anyway. Not to convince me to change my mind, but to get them to finally see it. She said Ava and Lily didn't deserve to be treated like collateral damage in a fight they didn't even know existed. That if there was a way to fix it, it would have to come from them, not me. I didn't say anything to that, just thanked her and we hung up. That night, I sat by the fireplace after the girls went to bed, watching the snow fall through the big glass window of the cabin. I wasn't angry. I was just done performing. For once, I wasn't the one chasing peace. I wasn't the one smoothing things over. I was just sitting in the stillness and letting them feel what they'd created. The group chat was still going. I scrolled through it without reading much. My brother had jumped in with some passive-aggressive nonsense about how some people don't understand the meaning of family, followed by my cousin chiming in with, "She always thinks she's better than everyone." I kept scrolling until I saw my mom's message. "Barbara, if you're trying to punish us, that's not fair to the kids. Just be an adult and talk." An adult. Coming from the woman who sent a 10-word text to cut us out of Christmas. I locked my phone and went to bed. 2 days later, my mom sent me something that wasn't a text. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't know how to feel. It was a voice memo. And everything about the tone was different. It showed up on the 28th mid-AM morning. No text, no explanation, just a single audio bubble from my mom sitting in the family group chat. Like a tiny landmine, I wasn't sure I wanted to touch. I stared at it for 10 minutes before pressing play. I expected excuses. I expected her to deflect like she always did. To say I overreacted or misunderstood, or that it was never about Ava and Lily, just circumstances. I was ready to hear her spin it all into something harmless. But that wasn't what came through. She sounded unsure, hesitant, like she'd recorded it a few times before finally sending it. And for the first time in years, there was no control in her voice, no performance. She said she'd been looking at the Christmas photos again, and every time her eyes went across the room in those pictures, all she could see was the space where we should have been. She said she couldn't stop thinking about Ava's little handmade ornaments from last year, or how Lily had cried when the dog knocked over the gingerbread house, and how somehow this year none of that mattered to them. Not enough to reach out, not enough to invite us. Then she said something that made my throat tighten. "You've always seemed so strong, and I think we mistook that for not needing anything." I thought you were pulling away from us. I didn't realize we were the ones pushing you out." There was a pause then. "And you've done more for us than we ever admitted." "Financially, yes. But beyond that, we let you carry all the weight, and we called it independence. We didn't say thank you. We didn't ask how you were doing. We didn't show up for you. And then we had the nerve to be surprised when you stopped showing up for us." She didn't cry, but her voice cracked once when she said Lily's name. "I miss them. I miss you, and I'm sorry." That was it. Just 3 minutes. I listened to it again, then a third time, and then I put my phone down and just sat in silence, staring out the cabin window at the thick snow blanketing the trees. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. I'd spent years collecting that anger, tucking it into the corners of my chest, saving it for when I needed to protect myself from the next cold comment or backhanded remark. But in that moment, it didn't feel sharp. It just felt heavy. The truth was, I'd stopped expecting change. I decided long ago that they'd never see me as more than a problem they had to explain away. They tolerated me at best, but they loved the version of me that stayed. Quiet, showed up on time, and paid what they didn't feel like paying. The real me, the tired, working, complicated mother, who built a life they didn't agree with. That version never got a seat at the table. You'll know, maybe. That afternoon, Aunt Carol called again. She didn't mention the voice memo. She just said, "Your dad's been pacing the living room all day, won't say much, just keeps muttering that he screwed it all up." That surprised me. My dad never talks about feelings. He's from that era where men don't apologize. They just get quiet and mow the lawn, aggressively. For him to admit he was wrong, even indirectly, was not something I took lightly. I asked Aunt Carol why doubt. Why did it take being cut off completely for them to suddenly realize what they'd done? She said, "Because people like them don't change until something breaks. And you finally broke it." I didn't respond to the voice memo that night. I wasn't ready, but I did something I hadn't done in over a year. I sent one message into the family group chat, not to provoke or punish, just to be honest. I needed space. Not just from Christmas, from all of it. I've been holding everything up for years. No one noticed until I stopped. The girls deserve better. I do too. No one replied at first, but around midnight after I'd already gotten into bed, I saw a notification light up my screen. It was a text from my dad. "Can we talk? Not as your parents. Just as two people who hurt each other and don't want to do it anymore." And for the first time in years, I felt something I didn't expect to feel toward them. Possibility. I didn't respond right away. My dad's message sat unread for 2 days. Not because I wanted to ignore him, but because I wasn't sure what I even wanted from him anymore. Conversation, an apology, an explanation that didn't end in a backhanded compliment or some moral lesson. He'd never been the type to admit fault. Growing up, silence was his version of forgiveness. Like, if we didn't talk about it, it didn't happen. But something about that message, "Can we talk?" Not as your parents, just as two people who hurt each other, felt different. And I wanted to believe it wasn't just damage control because the bills were gone. So, I called him. He picked up on the first ring. No small talk. No, "Hey Barb, this I messed up." And then he kept going. He told me the truth. Not a clean edited version, the real one. He said the Christmas plans were made without thinking. That when my brother offered to host, they accepted, and just kind of left it at that. No one brought me up. No one asked why I wasn't included. It wasn't a decision, he said. It was the absence of one. "We assumed you wouldn't come anyway," he said. "We figured you'd roll your eyes at the matching pajamas, or say something sarcastic about the family photos." And I didn't want to hear that, so I didn't push it. I told him that wasn't a good enough reason to leave Ava and Lily out. That even if he didn't know how to talk to me, those girls had done nothing wrong. He didn't push back. He just said, "You're right, I was wrong. All of us were." I wasn't prepared for what he said next. "I've been reading Ava's blog." I sat up straight. AA's 10. Her teacher helped them set up a little password-protected blog for writing practice. She posts short paragraphs about her day. Sometimes poems, sometimes little thoughts she's too shy to say out loud. I sent the link to a few family members last year, just once. No one ever mentioned it. I assumed they never opened it, but he had. He told me he read her most recent entry from Christmas Eve. It was titled, "This Year It's Just Us." She'd written about the snow at the cabin, the hot cocoa, the board games. Then, right at the end, she wrote, "I don't think Grandma and Grandpa like us anymore. Mommy says it's complicated, but I think it's just sad. I still love them though. I hope they remember me." He went quiet after that, then said he'd cried reading it. "And then you're a better mom than I ever gave you credit for, Barb." That I didn't know what to do with that. We talked for almost an hour. For the first time, he actually asked questions, not about what I did or didn't do, but about what it was like for me. He wanted to know how I managed everything, how long I'd been covering the bills without saying anything, how I was doing really. I told him I didn't want money or recognition. I just wanted them to treat me like part of the family, not the problem in the corner. I said, "I'm not trying to win anything here. I just don't want my daughters growing up thinking they're invisible." He said he understood, and that he and Mom wanted to do things differently. Not just talk about change, but actually show it. Then he asked if we'd come to their house for New Year's. No big production, no crowd, just the 5 of us. He said it wasn't to make up for Christmas, but to start something new. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. Then came the part one didn't expect. The next morning, there was a knock at my front door. Who is my brother? Standing there in jeans and a hoodie, no warning, no text. He looked exhausted. In his hands were 2 wrapped gifts, one with Ava written in careful block letters, the other with Lily and a glittery heart sticker on the tag. He looked at me and said, "I've been an idiot. I followed Mom and Dad's lead because it was easier, but it wasn't right. I'm sorry. I didn't invite him in right away. I just let the silence hang between us for a second." Then Ava peeked around the corner, saw him, and froze. He knelt down, held out her gift, and said, "I missed you, kid." He took it, and just like that, something small, but real started to shift. They were finally the ones trying to come back. New Year's Eve arrived before I had fully decided what I was going to do. I hadn't committed to going. I hadn't responded to the invitation at all. But Ava kept packing and unpacking a little bag with her favorite books, and Lily made me promise that if we went, she could wear her sparkly shoes. Neither of them said it out loud, but I knew they wanted to go. They wanted to see if things really could be different. So, just after 4 in the afternoon, I got in the car with them and drove. The roads were quiet. The snow hadn't stuck, just patches of gray slush here and there. My chest was tight the whole way there. Not from anger, not anymore. Just a strange mix of anxiety and something that felt like hope, but hadn't fully become it yet. When we pulled up to my parents' house, I almost didn't recognize it. No holiday decorations, no inflatable snowmen, no Pinterest-style front porch. Just a simple green wreath on the door and the porch light already on. My parents were standing in the doorway, not smiling, not posing, just waiting. They didn't rush to hug us. They didn't act like everything was fine. My mom gave the girls a small wave. My dad stepped aside to let us in. And for once, it wasn't a performance. It felt quiet. Inside the house looked different. There were no extra chairs, no trays of hors d'oeuvres, no piles of matching gifts, just a clean dining table set for 5. Not 21. No cousins, no distractions, just us. I noticed right away that the only decorations still up were the girls' old ornaments on the tree. AA's glitter pine cone from 1st grade, Lily's crooked foam snowman with one eye missing. Everything else was gone. In the kitchen, my brother was rinsing dishes like he had something to prove. There was no photographer, no music, no script, just the clatter of plates and a faint smell of something baking. The girls hesitated, then wandered into the living room. On their chairs were 2 small wrapped boxes, no oversized gift piles, no fake smiles, just quiet thoughtfulness. Lily opened hers and gasped. It was a necklace with her name on it. Ava got a little leather-bound journal and a matching pen set. Both gifts had tags written in my mother's handwriting. We sat down at the table. At first, it was silent, except for forks scraping plates and glasses being filled. Then my mom spoke before anything else. "We want to say this properly. We were wrong." She didn't look rehearsed. Her hands were shaking slightly. She said they'd spent years holding me to expectations that were never mine to carry, that my independence made them feel left out. And instead of asking how I was doing, they convinced themselves I didn't need anyone. They took my silence as distance, my self-reliance as arrogance, and when it became convenient to exclude me, they didn't stop to think what that would cost. Then my dad spoke, and what he said stayed with me. I didn't know how to be proud of you without sounding like I was lying to myself. But when I read what Ava wrote, he paused. That broke me. She misses us. And we don't deserve that love after the way we acted. But I'd give anything to earn it. He looked at Lily, then at Ava, then at me. And you. I know we left you to carry everything. And you did quietly. We never asked how you were. We just kept receiving. And when you stopped, the silence was deafening. I sat back. I hadn't expected that level of honesty. I hadn't expected them to dig that deep. So I asked one question. Why no? Why not years ago? My mom didn't flinch. Because this time, you actually left. And it forced us to see how much we relied on your presence. Not your money, not your help. And the girls. Without you, the house felt full of decorations, but completely empty. It wasn't dramatic. No one cried. It wasn't a Hallmark moment, but it felt real. After dinner, we all sat around and watched a silly movie Ava picked. Lily fell asleep curled up on a blanket on the floor. At midnight, when we stepped outside to watch the neighborhood fireworks, the girls were bundled in coats, sipping hot cocoa. My dad brought out an extra blanket for me, without saying anything. My mom handed Ava a sparkler, and told her to write her name in the air. Then my brother turned to me, hands deep in his jacket pockets, and said quietly, "This doesn't fix everything, but I'm glad you didn't let us off easy." I nodded. Not because I forgave them completely, but because he was right, and they knew it. As the fireworks cracked and lit up the sky, Ava leaned into me and whispered, "This feels like real Christmas. Just late, right?" "Yeah, just a little late." The next morning, New Year's Day, I woke up on my parents' couch. The girls were still asleep on the pullout, tangled up in blankets and pillows. Both of them smiling in their sleep like something had settled inside them. My dad was already in the kitchen making coffee, humming something off key. And my mom had left a folded blanket over my legs without saying a word. There was no big announcement, no awkward morning after talk, just peace, like everyone knew not to ruin it. Later that afternoon, a few relatives started trickling in. Apparently, there was an annual New Year's Day late lunch tradition they'd never missed. Something I hadn't been invited to in years. I assumed it was going to be the usual show. Food, fake laughs, small talk, and plenty of whispering behind backs. But this time was different. I stayed quiet at first, mostly watching. Lily stayed close to my mom, who had suddenly become her favorite person again. And Ava was showing her new journal to my cousin's daughter like it was a treasure map. I stood by the sink, unsure if I should even be there. That's when someone said it. My cousin Jeremy, always the loud one. The one who cracked inappropriate jokes and never knew when to shut up. Walked into the kitchen, saw me, and said, "Hey, weren't you not invited to Christmas?" The room went dead silent. My aunt dropped a spoon. I froze. Before I could say anything, my dad stepped in. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't make a speech. He just turned toward everyone and said, "Barbara and the girls weren't there because we made a mistake. A really foolish one. And we regret it." You could hear the shock settle into the room. No one had ever heard my dad admit to something like that. Not ever. My mom added, "We thought we were making a decision for the family, but we were really just hurting it." And that was it. They didn't try to spin it. They didn't look at me to soften the blow. They took the weight and stood in it. The whole room changed after that. My brother's wife came over later and apologized for not saying anything sooner. She said she'd felt it was wrong, but didn't want to get involved. He hugged me. It wasn't warm, but it was sincere. One of my younger cousins asked Ava if she wanted to help decorate cupcakes. Lily got invited to build a puzzle in the living room with kids she hadn't seen in 2 years. Nobody acted like it was normal. They acted like it mattered. That night, when we got home, I unpacked slowly. The girls were still talking about the fireworks, the cupcakes, the sparkler Ava burned her mitten with. No one mentioned Christmas, but it hung in the air like a memory we weren't quite ready to file away. Around 9 p.m., I got a message from my mom. Just one line. We boxed up the gifts from Christmas. They're yours whenever you want them. I stared at it for a minute, then typed back. The girls got what they needed, and I did too. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had nothing to explain. No more defending myself. No more pretending it didn't hurt. They messed up. I walked away. And when they really felt what that meant, they came back. Not with excuses, but with change. Ava came into my room a little later holding her journal. She said she was writing about New Year's, but didn't know how to end it. I asked what she'd written so far. She said it started out kind of sad, but then it became something good. Like it changed halfway through. I told her maybe that was the ending. That sometimes the good stuff comes late, but it still counts. And I meant it.